Would you like to speak to a human or computer? Say human or computer.
Human.
You have selected computer.
This week on Click, we're talking to the machines and hoping that they can understand us. We'll look at how speech recognition works, the new ways it's being used, and, importantly, if it's finally any good. Plus, what happens when Big Brother becomes a bit of a softie? We'll look at how surveillance could help vulnerable patients out of a crisis. We'll also hear some of your reactions to our Twitter survey, and Kate rocks the house in Webscape. Welcome to Click. I'm Spencer Kelly. As wonderful as computers are, as easy as they make our lives, they're not perfect. Specifically, they can't understand humans. They can't even tell what we're saying. And although we've had speech recognition software for many years now, unless conditions are just perfect, you can get some quite ridiculous results when you speak into the microphone. LJ Rich looks at how close we are to technology which can recognise speech.
Man and machine in perfect harmony.
We're having recognition problems.
Well, not quite. Despite its limitations, voice interaction with computers is seeping into our existence. For instance, if using a keyboard or mouse proves difficult, speech recognition software can help disabled users operate a computer.
Voice-activated software.
But in the world of business, the drive for corporate efficiency is slowly supplanting the human touch with automatons. For customers hanging on the end of a telephone, trying to communicate with a machine is often a frustrating experience.
I'm sorry, I didn't understand. Could you repeat that?
Still, that hasn't stopped the industry from selling us the idea of voice interaction in ever more novel ways.
Send a message.
Sending this reply to multiple recipients.
If you've ever done this, call click, you're using something called voice matching. That's where the words you say get compared to a database that's on the mobile phone. Speech recognition is different. Find me Japanese restaurants in London. It's more complex because you can say any word in any sequence.
Although we've learned their language, in practice it's pretty difficult for computers to understand ours quite as comprehensively.
The biggest problem with speech is it is our most common form of communication. We all use it all day, every day. And there is an expectation above all other technology that shouldn't it just be able to understand me just like you're understanding what I'm saying now.
For computers to interpret speech, they need to break down our words into small chunks of sound, or phonemes, which make up the English language. Take, for example, the word panda. It's made up of two phonemes, pan and duh. These phonemes are used by the computer to figure out whether you're about to say panda or pancake, even before you finish speaking.
On desktop speech recognition, it's not actually understanding what you're saying in terms of a whole sentence. What it's doing is using some quite clever statistical modelling and the words you use. It'll actually figure out the word you say, and it'll sort of effectively disambiguate it by the words that came before it, and in what sort of context do you say these words.
You can't do the calculations at all.
The somewhat overblown claims for successful speech recognition are almost as old as home computing itself. But, although not perfect, the latest versions of speech recognition software have, by any standard, come a long way.
These days, you don't have to train the software to recognise your voice or speech patterns before it has a go at interpreting what you've just said. We speak around 160 words a minute, much faster than we can type. So in theory, you could get a lot more work done. Problem is, none of these systems are 100% accurate.
And matters get even more complicated when you're in a less than perfect environment. So, how can you deal with speech recognition outside the office? This man should know. He's a researcher at a service which deciphers voicemails and converts them to text. And it's a real challenge.
This is what Spinvox deals with. It's the phone goes with you anywhere. It's a legacy system. It's actually quite poor quality audio that goes over the phone. We've got to deal with that. It could be train stations, pubs, and it's not just speech that comes down the phone. It could be the lorry that just went past and all these other noises that we've got to split out the other things that happen on the phone, ringtones, all of that sort of thing, from the speech and recognise just that speech bit.
While this technology is pretty good at translating speech, this outfit still has to use human beings to check some words their own computer is unfamiliar with. These then get fed back into the machine for next time.
You need real-world knowledge. You need to be able to know what things are and doing. And so to push it further and further and further, we have to build in more knowledge sources. And yes, understanding of what you meant is where we're going to have to push this next.
A machine that fully comprehends what people are saying at the moment may still be the stuff of science fiction, but in a couple of years, you never know. A telephone call to the bank may result in you talking to a machine without even realising it. End of line.
Syntax error.
LJ Rich speaking loud and clear. Next up, the latest tech news. A senior Microsoft exec has said its new operating system, Windows 7, should be out before the end of the year. The software giant is under pressure to get it out after disappointing sales of Vista. And we'll have a full preview of the operating system that some say Vista should have been on next week's show. The European Commission has fined chip giant Intel almost $1.5 billion after it made secret payments and rebates to retailers who agreed to sell devices with its chips rather than those of its rival AMD. Intel says it will appeal the decision, but lawyers say the record anti-competition ruling could open the floodgates to further civil suits by AMD, which doesn't stand to benefit from the current settlement, even though it made the original complaint. And finally, Google may have been accused of being an energy hog because of the huge amount of energy used in its data centres, but now it's gone on the offensive. A company blog has bragged about how green it is compared to other products in the world. So, producing and distributing one newspaper emits the same amount of carbon dioxide as 850 Google searches. And apparently, a cheeseburger is worth 15,000 Google searches. That's apparently without mayo. Thanks for all your replies to our survey on Twitter a couple of weeks ago. You'll remember that we brought you up to date with the latest Web 2.0 phenomenon, the site which invites you to tell the world what you're doing in 140 characters or less. And we asked you to tell us what you tell the world about, what you tweet about. This is what you said. It's for my downtime, all those moments when you're waiting for a train, a friend, etc. Something to keep me occupied. I joined Twitter after I realised I didn't have long passages of text to blog about. I also have too many close family members on Facebook to feel comfortable updating my status on there. What do I like about it? It makes you think about what the message is. As a marketer, 140 characters focuses the mind on the key points to tweet. How has the site changed in the last few months? Business gets it. Loads more users. Unfortunately, more spam-related messaging cloaked as entrepreneurs. All this comes to us as we continue to see Twitter's user base swell and more sites and applications that build on Twitter emerge. For example, we've apparently appeared on a new Twitter index of the world's most influential tweeters. There we are in 39th place, nestled nicely between EastEnders actor Adam Woodyatt and Snoop Dogg. Now, it's all based on a highly scientific algorithm which combines lots of different aspects of how other people use your tweets, and it looks like this. So, hope that's clear. And finally, something that made me smile this week. Never mind your super advanced iPhone with its amazing multi-touch screen that allows you to surf, zoom and scroll just using 2 digits. A man called Ironic Sans has posted the video of what may very well be the world's first multi-touch subway map. like I said, made me smile anyway. Anything that you'd like to send us, anything you'd like to tell us, any comments you'd like to make, email us, click@bbc.co.uk, or find us at twitter.com/bbcclick. Digital technology may have moulded the lives of the young, funky, internet-addicted E-generation, but it may also be able to transform the lives of the old and the infirm. David Reed's been to the south of France to look at a project which aims to give high-risk patients and the vulnerable the chance to stay at home rather than in hospital.
Because we're living longer and each of us producing proportionally fewer children, the world's population is getting older. Our globe is greying. By 2050, there will be 9 billion of us on the planet. 2 billion of those will be over 60 years old. So if you're over 19 now, that will include you. When we get old, we often need looking after, so you better pay attention, because unless you can bribe your kids to look after you, this could well be your best bet. Jerhome is a project by France's IT Research Institute in Ria. It's a house fitted out with sensors monitoring almost everything going on inside: electricity consumption, movement, chair and bed occupation. Even Jerhome's letterbox has a sensor to see if post is collecting there.
Based on the activity of equipment, we can analyze what is the real activity of the person, but in the sense of daily activity. The interest of this analysis of sensors is to understand if the activity is normal.
The shower has sensors on its pipes to show carers if the occupant is looking after themselves. Other cunning sensors in the kitchen reveal whether someone is eating normally. The system can detect the slight changes in our natural rhythms that can give doctors and carers early warning of possible trouble ahead. If you look under here, there are sensors that detect how much water is used in this sink. The aim is to move away from issuing old people with red alarm buttons that they press in a crisis. The aim instead is to look at the gradual deterioration in someone's condition and act on that instead.
This is not to be seen as an emergency system, because this is a very difficult problem. This is another problem. We try to see the problem another way and to monitor the habits of living and to detect what is going differently from usually, and because some kind of evolutions, such as the sleeping periods, for instance, can be the sign of some kind of weakness.
The secret to the system is how the raw data is analysed. Take, for example, video pictures, which can now be interpreted for surveillance, but also for analysing behaviour through posture. What's remarkable is that software can now tell if someone is in trouble, if they can bend or stretch normally, or if they're changing their usual routine. Video also gives doctors an objective way of assessing if changes in behaviour actually mean anything, whether they foretell an oncoming crisis or nothing harmful at all.
For example, people are waking up during the night and they go to, we don't know what they are doing. And sometimes they can go to bathroom, or sometimes they just are erratic motion, they are not very conscious. And so in the second case, you have doctors who will give medication to the elderly, but for good reason. But in the first case, they will give the same medication, but for bad reason. It's just because they need to go to the toilet. So we need to know why people have such a behavior. It's not just important to know that they are getting up, it's to know why they are doing it. And so for that, we need a better analysis of the scene and the situation.
Now, all this monitoring might seem intrusive, and it is, but this might be one of the easier trade-offs that modern technology has thrown up at us. If you were a vulnerable patient, what would you prefer? To lose a little privacy and have the freedom to stay at home, or be admitted to hospital and have very little privacy at all?
Tout ce qui est le déploiement de technologies de sécurité.
The thing with security technology is that it permits us to shorten your hospital stay. The convalescence time is often lengthened by the difficulty we have evaluating the risk of patients living at home.
Qu'on a à identifier le risque au domicile.
But more important might be the cultural consequences of a technology that could make it more likely, rather than less, that old people will be left to their own devices rather than supported by their families.
The danger is that this kind of system could tend to loosen the links between family members. And we know this can happen. But the idea there was to bring a tool, in fact, to help situations where, because of the actual way of living of families, members are spread over territories, so they cannot always physically meet their parents even when they want to. So it's a way to keep some kind of link and also to alert emergency people, for instance, or doctors, that something is going the wrong way, for instance.
It's a sad fact of modern life that many of us have to uproot and move house to find work, but fact it is. France's Care Home could be an invaluable tool, keeping a watchful eye on the otherwise isolated and vulnerable individuals left at home.
David Reed. Next up, Kate with Webscape, which this week may very well require the use of earplugs. You have been warned.
Lots of people harbour a secret desire to be a rock star. You only have to look at the popularity of games like Guitar Hero to know that. Well, if you fancy giving it a go yourself, but you don't want to splash out on expensive games and gadgets to make the experience more realistic, all you need are these and this. And then you're ready to rock. You can download the full and free version at fretsonfire.sourceforge.net. Watch the tutorial first to get the hang of it. You use the F1 to 5 keys as your frets and remember to hit the enter for strumming action. Narrated by a super cool dude, this game is lots of fun and insanely hard until you get the hang of it. Once you start playing, there are lots of tunes to entertain at varying levels of difficulty. You can even use the song editor to make your own compositions, although a degree of musicality is required if you don't want the neighbours to think that you're murdering the cat. With the advent of sites like YouTube, it seems that almost everyone dreams of online fame. Well, at Ustream.tv, that dream could well come true. This site is ridiculously easy to use and completely free. Just sign up and log in and you can start broadcasting straight away. You'll need to give the site permission to access your webcam and mic, and you can even broadcast from your mobile device like an iPhone, allowing you to provide a window to the world, live and uncut. Just don't expect TV quality streaming. This site is free after all, and the quality of the stream is more than adequate for the price. When setting up your broadcast details, you can opt to include a chat box so you can interact with your viewers, if you have any. There is even the option to embed it into your own website or blog. The site has over 320,000 registered users who generate a staggering 350,000 plus hours of live streamed content per month. Around 10 million unique users tune in to view this content, and if viewing is what you want to do, well, there's something for everyone here. The usual caveats about user-generated and unmoderated content apply. Younger viewers particularly should probably be monitored when they're on this site, as they may come across unsuitable material. If you do find something you don't like, just move along, or report the broadcaster to the site owners if you feel strongly enough about it. And finally, a blog that will charm and delight you. Everyone's a critic, but what do you do when your 4-year-old daughter is your biggest maligner? Well, you blog about it, of course. tinyartdirector.blogspot.com is the home of this blissfully frank young lady's musings, compiled by her father, the artist in question. Given regular briefs by his tiny director, the artist attempts to fulfill them and posts scans of his work and his daughter's accompanying comments to this blog. You really just have to read it to get it. The drawings and paintings are lovely in their own right, but this precocious little girl has some hilarious things to say about the works. That is between pouting and flouncing out of the room in a huff. Her father captures the mood really well with what he writes. It's another happy addition to my morning coffee ritual. Well, I just hope the tiny art director never watches this show. I wouldn't like to hear what she has to say about my review of her in our shout messages. Talking of which, if you want to know where to post your comments and find links to all the pages we've explored today, Spencer will be along in just a moment to oblige.
Thank you, Kate. Yeah, bbc.co.uk/click. That's the link you need. Contact us, click through to the Webscape links and watch the programme again in its entirety, all from the one website. Next week, we've got a really interesting programme for you. We're going to be looking at the next version of Microsoft Windows. It's the one that comes after Vista. And we'll also be paying our second visit to the Science Beyond Fiction show in Prague. And this time, the robots are in charge. Looking forward to it. See you then.